This heart of a lion, this soul of a titan. You won't break me, you won't break me. This force, you can't fight it. This thunder and lightning. You won't break me, you won't break me.
Welcome to Newport, Rhode Island, and today is Gurney's Resorts Import Race. Sailing fans from across the United States have made the pilgrimage to the city by the sea for the second visit in the history of the race. It's now a firm favourite for visitors, teams and their families who all enjoy the quintessentially New England style. With a storied past of pirates and privateers, navies and navigators, Newport has a rich history with sailors and sailing. The opening ceremony had people out in their droves enjoying the festivities and dockside atmosphere, with the Newport Navy Band and the Coast Guard Band adding a very American flavour to the event opening. An explosive stopover is guaranteed. We're here dockside at Fort Adams after a thrilling leg 8 from Itajaí, Brazil. At one point, almost all the teams held the lead. Thrilling tactical battles, blast reaching, and then a nail-biting finish. Let's go back and take a look at how we got here.
Hopefully we can, sail even a little bit more free, a bit more do our race, let them follow us, and hopefully we can do a good like this one and go back to the lead as soon as possible.
We're going to come out fighting today and fight really hard for a good position into Newport.
"5,700 nautical miles from Itajaí in Brazil to Newport, Rhode Island. It's go for the entire fleet."
Yeah, it's going to be a nice leg, I think, and we hope to be right at the top pushing these red boats right now.
Now we're heading off to Newport, Rhode Island, the home port for Vestas 11th Hour Racing, and half our crew as well.
So pumped to go home.
We're doing really, really well. I think we're winning at the moment, so that's pretty cool. But as you can see in the distance, there's a whole heap of clouds coming up. It only takes one or two clouds to be on the wrong side of it, which you can hardly do anything about. Suddenly you're out the back door, so sometimes you're in the mercy of the wind gods.
You get an extra buzz when you're at the front, but it's hard when you're being hunted the whole time.
Now ourselves and Turn the Tide are at the front end of the fleet, and the other guys are chasing. But long way to go, but all good so far.
It's been a hectic night. I guess from here on it's only going to be a little bit more intense. You don't have it always right, but when you have it right, it's real teamwork.
We were 17 miles behind the leader, we're now 24.
A lot of cloud activity, unbelievable actually. It didn't work out that well for us in the end, we lost a lot of miles.
We are just passing, Turn the Tide on plastic.
Like everyone's looking forward to getting into the trades, just getting out of the doldrum.
Everybody's ready to jump in front of the others. J'adore la Volvo.
Starting to get a lot of the sargassum seaweed in the water. For us, it's a real problem because it gets stuck in all our foils. It gets stuck in the rudder and the keel. So it's a problem we're going to end up dealing with for another couple days. And it's just part of racing in this part of the world.
For the first place with Brunel, he's a bit ahead of us. It's about speed mainly, and they are quite fast.
The boats in front, they have an important lead on us, and it's going to be very hard to catch them, but we have to keep all the options open. We just need to go as fast as we can.
Drive coming up shortly at the high pressure system, and we're battling out with Brunel now, just closing in on them.
Last night, Dongfeng was the winner of us. Did two jibes, and basically just to stay in between them and the finish, we matched their jibes. It looks like another 5-6 hours on this board, and then the final drive into Newport. So will be exciting.
No way.
Yeah, well, what an amazing feeling to have just won the league. We could have been losing quite a lot of points on the overall. But I guess it just shows you just never give up, and you know, when the back's against the wall, you got to step up, I guess, rather than shy away from it. And we did that. We stuck to our guns and kept pushing hard. And you know, when the opportunities came in the last 24 hours or 36 hours, we made sure we took them, and you know, right till the end here.
After that thrilling finish, Mapfre retake the lead on 53 points. Dongfeng race team slide to second with 50, and Team Brunel on 42 after their second place finish. Team Akzo Nobel in fourth on 36, then Vestas 11th Hour Racing, Team Sun Hunkai Scallywag, and Turn the Tide on Plastic. With the overall race results so close, the import series becomes ever more critical. If there's a tie when the teams get to The Hague, the import series is used as the tiebreaker. Mapfre currently lead on 44 points, Dongfeng race team in second on 39. The two Dutch teams of Team Akzo Nobel and Team Brunel fighting it for the third spot. Vestas 11th Hour Racing, Turn the Tide on Plastic, and Team Sun Hunkai Scallywag close it out with 5th, 6th and 7th places. I'm here dockside in Newport at the Volvo Ocean Race stopover. It's a bit of a drizzly cold day, but I'm joined by two rays of sunshine, my co-commentator Sally Barkow for the TV and president and 3-time sailor in the Volvo Ocean Race, 2-time skipper Kenny Reid. We'll start with Kenny. An amazing finish here in Newport, close as you like, and kind of odd, very light.
Yeah, it was very odd. It was, I guess if you can say amazing if you like drifting. And drifting, it took forever for the last few miles of this race to actually happen, but what drama at the end. I don't think it was something that nobody expected, especially the Mapfre guys. I don't think they ever expected to win that leg, and to come from behind like they did and to kind of drift around Brunel at the last second and leave Dongfeng in the dust, it really kind of changed the outlook of the Volvo Ocean Race the last few miles here in Newport.
And before going into this leg, Dongfeng were 1 point ahead of Mapfre, having had a couple of pretty good legs. Sally, a big turnaround, now a 3-point lead for Mapfre.
Yeah, a huge turnaround, and we all saw the challenges Mapfre had on that last leg, and then to pull through at the end, not a surprise, I think, when you really look at their team and their team dynamics and how they really stuck together. And I think you heard Blair Tuke at the end say, like, we're going to win this thing. They were really pushing all the way to the end. And, you know, now I think they have this extra fire and this extra gel together, and we see them really strong to the finish.
In the overall scores, Dongfeng and Mapfre very close. Also, Akzo Nobel and Brunel very close as well. We've seen the points really tight. Is that a function of the one design element of the race?
Well, of course, the one design nature. And as the race goes along, they're all getting closer and closer in speed. They all do full speed analysis at the end of every single leg. But keep in mind that about 2 hours before the finish, right at Castle Hill, Dongfeng potentially had a 5-point lead going into the rest of the race, and they end up with a deficit just on a couple little positions changing. So hold on, you know, this is buckle up, as they say. This is gonna go right to the end.
So Sally, to some of the teams, Brunel particularly, have been on the up and up. They've done amazing the last couple of legs. You sailed with them for 2 legs. Tell us what that is all about.
Yeah, I think they're now a really solid, strong team. It took them, unfortunately, the beginning half of the race to really build their group that could commit to it. Everybody had different commitments. I sailed with them for 2 legs, and they were really up and down. We worked on the speed, but we finished, you know, second to last and last. And then they come out on the Southern Ocean leg and they crush it. You know, they really gelled in Auckland. They really came together. A lot of communication stuff was sorted out. And now I think, you know, we see them pretty close to almost winning the 2nd leg in a row, and they're really pushing hard to be on the podium. Some really strong sailors there. Pete Burling, one of the most instinctual sailors you can ever be with, and it was a joy to have him on, to be a part of, you know, his energy on the boat and what he could do to push the team.
So to the 2 red boats at the top of the overall leaderboard, Dongfeng were ahead. Mapfre have just taken them by 3 points. Technically speaking, there's an overall bonus point. Looks like Dongfeng are going to win that, so maybe it's only 2 points. We've got a double points Atlantic leg. What can Xavi Fernandez and his Mapfre crew do to ensure that Dongfeng stay behind, and conversely?
Two of the pre-race favorites went and spent a bunch of time together testing and training. They're friends off the water. They're actually, the two teams are good friends off the water, which is also a little bit rare. But when they say they don't know where each other is on the race course, they are lying. They know exactly where the other is, and I think they both feel like when push comes to shove, they can be the two fastest boats. They will be very close to each other for the rest of the race, and even in these imports, they know where each other is in the imports. And heck, I did the practice race with them a few days ago on Dongfeng, and they knew exactly where Mapfre. If they were playing tiddlywinks, they would know where each other was. So it's fun. I think the two rival teams genuinely like each other, but when it comes to the sport of sailing, it's a death match as always.
And to the import race, Sally, it's important the points only 3, and then there's a bonus point for the overall elapsed time, and then a tiebreaker for the import series if the points are even overall. It looks like that may well happen.
For sure, and these guys, we all know how serious they take the import race because it is a tiebreaker. We saw it in the last race becoming quite an important situation, and I think we're going to see it again. It's going to be a deciding factor.
Thanks very much to Sally Barkow and Ken Reid, shining some light on this Volvo Ocean race on a rather grey day. Well, crowds braved the weather to come and see the boats off the dock. Crucial times for the teams. The overall scores are tight, means the import race series all the more important. I watched yesterday's press conference and you could definitely see a new level of focus from the skippers. Game faces on the sailors everywhere, and that was clear for everyone to see around the village. Fantastic atmosphere, wonderful. 3 hours north of New York, an hour and a half south of Boston, we're in Newport, Rhode Island for the Gurney's Resorts Import Race. The start just off Fort Adams, up to Gate 1 between Rose Island and Goat Island, and then down through the start-finishing line gate to the Leeward Marks off Castle Hill, and then back up through the start-finishing line, 2 or 3 laps around. The conditions brought to you by Vestas Wind and their 20 years of highly detailed climatological data from the Global Vestas Climate Library. We've got here downscaled to ultra-high resolution over the area of Newport. It displays the local wind shades, the shifts, the accelerations. You can see the darker patches, more breeze, stronger. The lighter colours where there's less breeze under the land. This today for the northeast easterly wind direction, shifting right. Well, here we go. We can see Fort Adams, beautiful in the background there. And we've got all 7 boats now jockeying for position. The breeze has shifted right a little bit, and we've got tons of spectator boats out on the water. Everyone dressed appropriately. They certainly saw the weather. I'm joined here in the commentary booth by my good friend Sally Barkow. Sally sailed on SCA and is also an Olympian. Sally, great scenes.
Yeah, what a day. I mean, we all kind of wish the sun would poke through, but at least the wind's out there.
Yeah, we can see Team Brunel now putting their bow down, just giving Mapfre something to think about. The boats will all be starting on starboard, and the committee boat there just at the windward end of the line. It's a lovely gunboat, 60 fault tolerant. And the starting line sponsored by Amiga. 1 minute to go. Mapfre just squeezing in, or being given a little bit of a tough time by Vestas 11th Hour Racing. This a crucial moment, jockeying for position. And now look, Dongfeng are starting with masthead code 0 there, Sally.
That's the masthead code 0. Looks like they're just coming in full steam behind the fleet.
Yeah, look at that. Dongfeng coming in with a full wrap of speed. Are they going to be able to find a gap in here? 40 seconds to go. It looks like they've got all of that to race. They're not bad here. Charles Cordrellia, not famed for his starting. Everyone else slowing down. Don't be over the line at the start. Oh, great on board. Look at here. He's got the pedal down, and Dongfeng, are they going to be able to break through the dirty air? Are they going to be able to break through the dirty air of Vestas 11th Hour Racing? 10 seconds to go to the start. I think they're going to be okay. Dongfeng just slowing down a little bit. All 6 boats and windward. It is Sun Hun Kai Scallywag. Well, here we go for the start of the Gurney's Import Race, a perfect union of maritime history and Volvo Ocean Race sailing royalty. Fantastic start there. Vestas 11th Hour Racing pulling out there. Masthead 0, Mapfre and Team Brunel right in shot. Let's go up to the helicopter. We've got President of North Sails and sailing legend, 3-time Volvo Ocean Race veteran, Ken Reid. What say you? Okay, Sally, what do you think there? Just talk us through that start.
Yeah, surprising that Dongfeng weren't able to actually punch through with all that momentum. You know, these are quite heavy boats and they had so much pace on, but they just did a couple wiggles, and now you see them just kind of sucking the air, and it's gonna be a tough position for them, where you see Brunel and Mapfre not going to their big sail. Maybe they have a little more pressure down there, but they're actually sailing just as fast as Vestas to windward of them with a smaller sail configuration.
Well, and look at Dongfeng race team. They looked like they had the perfect line in for the start. They just got stuck in dirty air on Vestas 11th Hour Racing above them, and the local hero team have got the best of this start for sure. Dongfeng didn't quite manage to get it. And look how the dirty air affects the Dongfeng race team on the right-hand side. They're struggling to windward. Sun Hun Kai Scallywag. Let's try Kenny again. He's up in the helicopter. Ken Reid, what say you?
Hi guys, sorry about that. High above ringside with this heavyweight bout of 7 of the coolest boats in the world. Listen, Brunel nailed that start. Dongfeng took a big risk trying to do that slingshot maneuver and has paid the price. Vestas also great lineup. Looks like they're going to fetch this first pin. Mapfre trying to get themselves out of dirty air. They're going to fetch this first gate, but barely. Interesting to see that Brunel is going to make it there with just their little jib, and all the other boats went for the big gear right away. Just a very interesting and quite a fascinating view, I got to tell you.
Well, Kenny, that's brilliant. We're going to come back to you in a moment and just tell us the difference between the J1s that are up and the masthead code zeros. And it's certainly looking like J1 is good if you're in clear air, but Mapfre really struggling for power. Let's go down on the water for his perspective, Nick Bice.
Yeah, what a beautiful timed start by both Brunel and Vestas 11th Hour, who are just battling it out at the top of the fleet. And I've got to say, the two red boats, it doesn't matter where they are, they just want to be on top of each other. And it's been the theme of this race for a long time, and it's going to be the theme of the race for the rest of till we make it to The Hague at the end of June.
Now, Bicey, it looks like Team Brunel at the front on the left-hand side are putting the squeeze on Vestas 11th Hour Racing. What's going on there?
Yeah, they've managed to work up under Vestas 11th Hour, just using that J1 so they can sail a little bit higher, and they'll just push them to the far right of the course here and then put the bow down and nail it into the gate. And I wouldn't be surprised if they unfurl their masthead Co-Zero very soon.
Okay, we'll go up to Kenny Reid in the helicopter. We've got J1 looking good at the front, but also a J1 looking bad on Mapfre. Looks like they've just rolled out their code zero. Just tell us the different choices here. Higher, lower, faster, slower.
All the big gears out now, Andy, and Brunel did a really nice job. Really a match racing move. It's no wonder with a guy like Peter Burling on board. He's a little used to that. They kind of stuck Vestas head to wind for a few minutes, got themselves a couple boat links, and now they're going to be heading for this gate. Interesting, you would typically want to go around the right-hand side of this gate, I think, but the left-hand side is very, very favored from a distance standpoint. So it'll be interesting to see what choice these guys make coming up into the gate number 1.
Yeah, it looks like most people are going to choose the left-hand side, but a fascinating tactical moment there where Brunel, as Kenny was just explaining, squeezed up with their J1. They managed to get a little faster than Vestas 11th Hour Racing, put some dirty air on them, and then they rolled out their masthead code zero. At the first mark for the Gurney's Import Race, Team Brunel, a beautiful tactical reach up to the top, and they are leading. Furling up that masthead zero, they've got to go through the jibe, and it looks like they're just going to unfurl same sail for back again. Vestas 11th Hour Racing, local team, furling their code zero in second place. Hot on their heels, Sun Hun Kai Scallywag in third. That's very tricky conditions, a lot of boat maneuvering, a lot of different tactics here. Charlie Enright doing a big jibe around with the wheel. And now they're unfurling that code 0 again. Tony Mutter there on the leeward side. He is first off, lets the furl go, and then he jumps onto the grinder. Stacey Jackson there. Let's listen in. Kifari at the helm of Turn the Tide on Plastic. Here we go for that jibe. Everyone seems to have chosen the left-hand mark. That's closer, as Kenny was talking about. Oh, great scene. Look at Dongfeng race team. Oh, my word, they are in terrible wind and the dirty air, the chopped up air. All these boats going past them, Sally.
Yeah, they're just going to have quite a struggle to get to this mark. I would imagine fighting a little bit of tide and also all this dirty air going above them. Once they hopefully clear clean seas, turn the tide here, they might be able to get a little bit of pressure around. But unfortunately, that risk, as Kenny said, on the starting line has put them in a really, really tough position.
Yeah, Dongfeng on starboard, so everyone else has to keep clear of them. Let's get the latest from Ken Reed. What do you see?
Well, the latest is it's a bit of a reach around right now. Unfortunately, the breeze hasn't quite cooperated, but I'm very surprised. I sailed with Charles Quadrillier and the Dongfeng team in the practice racing, and I'll tell you what, they were really aggressive, toughed it out. We won both of the practice starts and that day, and they were really good at kind of sticking their nose in there, carving out a hole and taking off at the right time. I'm very surprised that they took that risk and really tried for kind of a hero or zero start, and unfortunately for them right now, it has very clearly turned into a zero.
Yeah, Charles Quadrillier not super confident in his starting ability. They haven't been the best of the starters, and they've suffered slightly on the import races because of that. And maybe that's a function of his long history of offshore sailing. He sort of feels like the miles work themselves out in the end. But Kenny, with these one-designed boats, the racing getting closer and closer starts all the more important. Speak to that.
Well, a really nice job by David Witt, to be honest. He kind of took the most conservative line on that start, coming in from the unfavored weather end, but as everybody else is kind of dirtying up their breeze on each other, kind of piling on top of each other, all of a sudden Scallywag just rolls over the top and has themselves a pretty nice little podium position right now at this point in the race.
Yeah, good job from Scallywag. There is Peter Burling helming Team Brunel. Peter Burling, very famous sailor for his young years because he has won a gold and silver medal, a silver in London and a gold in Rio at the last Olympic Games. And last year he won the America's Cup. Can he win the Volvo Ocean Race? And I'll tell you, I've been doing some of the maths, the overall scores, and next leg, they are right back in this. Here we are in the import race. Very important for them to get as many points in this because for sure, if Brunel are on the charge, and they are in the overall standings with the first and second in the last two legs, this import race could end up being crucial on countback. Let's go down to Nick Bice for the latest. Nick.
Yeah, Team Brunel showing them a clean set of hills here on what's unfortunately turned into a bit of a reach-a-thon around the track. So I don't think there'll be many passing opportunities, but let's not rule out what this breeze could do. It's extremely gusty at this northern end of the course, but when they get down towards College Hill, it's not much breeze at all. So they'll be keeping a very close eye on that.
Yeah, well, for anyone wanting to see some breeze and upwind conditions tomorrow, the forecast 25 knots from the southwest for the leg departure, so make sure you remember to tune in there. 1:45 local Newport time. 4 Adams in the background, and great crowd always, super fans in Newport, and it has been an amazing stopover. Listening to Vestas Simon Fisher voiceover. Plenty of spectator boats out, following all the teams around. The Mondrian masthead code 0 there, promoting their famous artiste, Dutch artist, and the Hague, which is the finish of the race. Welcome to all the fans all around the world. We can see you, and tell us where you're watching from. And Many of you saying you're watching from Newport, Rhode Island. You should be out here watching live and direct, but great to see you all. Kenny, just tell us, Kenny up in the helicopter, tell us what it means for the race to be here in Newport for the second time. You're a hero here, and Puma was based here. Tell us what it means.
Well, listen, this is home, obviously, and I guess I couldn't. It says something about the people of southeastern New England, Rhode Island, and Newport, whether you're a little crazy to be out on a day like today watching this, or highly passionate and committed to the sport of sailing. I'm actually stunned at how many boats are out here on the water watching today, because you know, it has been a pretty crummy spring, and all the boat yards got boats in late, but it sure seems like a lot of people figured out how to get their boats in at the last minute to come out and watch this great spectacle. And I'm so proud of, obviously, my brother Brad Reed, who put this stopover together along with Sail Newport and all the 500 volunteers and all the local sponsors. It's obviously great for sailing, and it's certainly great for Newport, Rhode Island.
Yeah, and almost impossible to get a hotel or a room within half an hour of Newport. That's got to be good for the economy and bringing it all together, and also inspiring young sailors, Kenny.
Well, that's what this is all about, right? We need to, through mediums like this and through races like this, we need to keep showing off the sport, and we need to get more people doing this sport, getting into boats. As I look down, I see a whole bunch of friends on a whole bunch of different power boats and sailboats out here. We got to keep showing it off. We got to get more young kids into this, obviously, and they see these sailors who are obviously very, very approachable, and get their autographs and talk to them. And that's the beauty of I think, sailors. They are approachable, and they do make sure that they try to get as many people involved. Cordial, happy, always answering questions. It's just a nice atmosphere.
Yeah, and Charlie Enright, one of those people, Kenny, grew up sailing around Narragansett Bay and now sailing around the world.
Yeah, well, listen, Charlie's been looking at this type of project for a long time. There was no kid when I was doing my Volvo races. There was nobody asking more questions than Charlie Enright was at the time. You know, Charlie works with us at North Sails in his spare time, and he actually took my old office at my old loft. So I guess he's kind of following in the footsteps. I'm not sure if they're great footsteps to follow in, but he's certainly following in them. And he asked more questions than anybody you could ever imagine. Here he is, his second lap around the planet, and obviously doing a nice job here today. There's nothing better than a good showing in front of your home crowd, and I know they're going to be very anxious until that final gun goes today to try to make sure that they stay up on the podium.
Well, and also Nick Dana, he didn't get married today, but he is Newport sailing royalty, right, Kenny?
No, he is definitely royalty. His whole family with the Newport shipyard, father Charlie, who is a past Commodore of the New York Yacht Club. Nick started out as part of, he was on our shore crew with our first Puma program as just a kind of a young nipper coming in at the last minute. He's going the hard way. He was a photographer with Abu Dhabi, then he obviously sailed with Charlie the last time around, and he decided he was going to do this a long time ago, and here he is, his third lap around the planet, and you know, something to be proud. It shows that hard work actually pays off, and any young kid out there, Nick Dana is the perfect example of hard work. There's no shortcuts, and all of a sudden your dream can come true. You get to sail on an event like this.
Yeah, wonderful. That's Nick Dana there on the far right. The crew's trying to keep forward, so weight forwards, that gives the boats. Well, Sally, you can tell us, why do you keep weight forward on the boat?
Yeah, they're just really trying to get the transom out of the water and less drag. You know, they have not maybe as much wind as they wish right now, and so they're just trying to really pull this boat through the water, and so getting the bow down, the stern up, more efficient pushing the boat through the water.
Yeah, and they're just in the background while we're talking about weddings. That's Hammersmith Farm, the home of First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy, and the site of her reception for her 1953 wedding to John F. Kennedy here in Newport, Rhode Island. And it was referred to as the Summer White House during his presidency. So, Beautiful scenes. There's Castle Hill in the background as Team Brunel come down towards these leeward marks. It's the end of the first lap around. We'll do 2 laps around. Team Brunel got the best of the start, and that has really helped them. And those 2 gates quite skewed, so we've got, well, it's clearly the choice for this left-hand mark. We'll go down to Nick Bice and we'll talk to Nick about this mark rounding in just a moment. Team Brunel around the leeward mark in the lead. Bicey, tell us.
Oh, I think the race committee had an issue with that right-hand mark that got swept away with the tide. So that made it very clear that each team would go to the left-hand mark, which it looks as though they're doing. And they'll all be heading back upwind with the big masthead code zeros. And as I was saying before, I think it's a bit of a procession from here with not many passing opportunities, but putting on a fantastic spectacle for the flotilla of boats out here. All the crowd at Castle Hill and in Fort Adams, so it's a spectacular day.
Yeah, wonderful. They'll be doing good business on the mudslides on Castle Hill to keep everyone a little warm. And Festus, 11th hour racing, round in second. Hot on their heels, Team Sun Hun Kai Scallywag. There's Phil Harmer, nicknamed Wendy, on the left-hand side. Dana on the right. Sun Hun Kai Scallywag coming in with a full rope of speed on there.
Yeah, that was kind of a weird rounding by Charlie. Kind of, I guess they're sticking it to windward just to kind of get the sail in, hold that really high lane, and try to give some bad air to Sun Hun Kai Scallywag. But to me, they slowed down quite a lot to have that maneuver. So
at least 2 hours more of outbound tide. So it's going from left to right, it's going out, and that's why those mark roundings, they do very fast downwind. It's going to be a little tougher on the upwind, around 8.5 knots. So you can see the boats on that sort of carpet of tide moving from left to right as they get slid round. But Turn the Tide on Plastic do a nice job of coming in with some serious speed here into this mark. Mapfre on the inside, so they've got room, Sally. They have room and they can turn that mark as they wish. And what you'll see here is they'll probably have quite a tight turn, and Turn the Tide are going to have to just kind of come up right on their stern. And yeah, unfortunately be stuck in a little bit of their bad air. Yeah, it's going to be hard to tack away here, and that's why we saw Sun Hun Kai Scallywag squeezing it up. The Eisenhower house there in the background as well. On board with Dee Kafari and her ever-improving band of what were rookies and are now very experienced round-the-world sailors, improving constantly. They led quite a lot of the leg into Newport. Axo Nobel now sailing down into the dirty air, and here we've got Dongfeng race team coming in for their final jibe after getting stuck in that dirty air. Yeah, it's too bad. There's not much space for them to break free on this procession, but we'll see. You know, if the tide is quite strong, maybe they have a tack in, but that would be probably a dream for Dongfeng to maybe make a maneuver. But if you look at Brunel, I think they're pretty much aiming right back to the other gates and are probably going to lay them. Ooh, look, Axo Nobel have tacked. Look at this. This is going to be interesting. Dongfeng race team on starboard. Axo Nobel tacked and are now trying to get their masthead code 0 out. They're trying to get out of the dirty air. Almost hit that leeward mark. Gives you an idea how strong the tide is. If they tack and the boat stops, basically it's pushing you downwind right into that mark. But I think, you know, it's kind of interesting move here. It might pay off in the very, very, very long run at the top. If anybody else has to tack later on, at least Axo Nobel will have clear air from here all the way to the next gates. Well, there's some effort being put in there. We've got fans watching from Vigo, Sunny Island, Dunleary. We've got people showing their love for all of their fans, including Kenny Reed. Everyone loves hearing from Volvo Ocean Race veteran and legend Ken Reed up in the helicopter. Kenny, what say you?
Mapfre's doing their thing again, you guys. Vestas really didn't get the big code 0 in nearly early enough around that leeward mark and immediately fell into the bad air of Brunel. They're going to be sitting there in the bad air of Brunel the whole way up. Mapfre, coming from well behind, are probably already across those two boats. So Mapfre just doing their thing again, being patient, doing the right thing, and I'd be very surprised if they weren't in second place by the time they get up towards this spectator crowd on the left-hand side. I don't think they're going to fetch all the way through. There's a ton of outgoing current right now, and you can really see it at that mark. But, you know, Vestas And Scalawag, for sure, didn't get that code 0 in early enough. They lost a little bit of bearing to Brunel, and Brunel just made them pay big time, allowing Mapfre really to start sneaking through.
Yeah, well, actually, Sunhunkai Scalawag have now tacked, so we've got Mapfre who've taken it on, and a function of that tide is that it looks like this leg is turning into a beat with about 8.5 knots of wind speed and the outbound tide. And Sunhunkai Scalawag now tacking onto port. And just talk to us as we look at the race course where less tide is, a little more in the middle. Can you tell us?
Right-hand side would be less current over where Axonovo tried to go, but there's also a lot less wind over there. So I don't think you have a whole lot of choice right now. From a current standpoint, you'd have to just kind of send it up and try to get up inside the bay as much as possible. The long tack is obviously starboard tack. Here comes Vestas. You know, it's really a shame. They're going to really look back at that mark rounding and kick themselves for not getting that code 0 in quite a bit earlier, because it really let Mapfre right back into the game.
Okay, this is going to be interesting. We've got a cross between Vestas 11th Hour Racing, who are going to be on port, and Mapfre, who are going to be on starboard, on board with Vestas 11th Hour Racing. Are Mapfre going to cross them? And Charlie Enright rushes down to the leeward wheel to take a look at his opposition, current leaders in the overall series, Mapfre. You see him turn right a bit, move the wheel. It'll be a bit of a duck. It is a duck. On board.
We got a long way to go here. Not done. Okay, we're out. Hang the butt. On board, good. Get it going.
Doing great. Again. Dongfeng behind them, crucially for them.
Jump in, Red. Red. Okay. Back to back, guys. Feet, please.
So Vestas 11th Hour Racing squeeze towards the right-hand side. There's more current on the left-hand side. You can actually see a little bit of current line in the center of the course. Vestas 11th Hour Racing going to the right, but there's a little less current, but potentially less breeze. Let's go down on the water to Nick Bice.
Yeah, it's based on a little left-hand wind shift and the current. It's turned into a very interesting leg. I'm actually seeing Brunel applying a different strategy now. They're hoisting the J1 so they can use that for the tacking manoeuvres that will be coming up. They're trying to squeeze up to get through the gate. I don't think they'll make it, but maybe do this top half of the race course with the J1.
Excellent. J1, well, if the breeze builds, we'll see that. Vestas 11th Hour Racing a little light on their trim and their code 0 as well, Sally.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. When you get those onboard shots, you can really see the coordination needed between all three pedestals, so that's 6 people having to push the pumps together really hard. And you heard Mark Towell in there say button down. I mean, that means they need to go for the big gear. They have a lot to trim in, and to me, that the leeward mark rounding and those last 2 tacks were kind of sloppy, and they're just losing boat lengths because of it, especially in this outgoing tide.
Yeah, great pictures of Team Brunel sailing cool and calm. Go on board with them. Bauer Becking essentially acting as tactician. You sailed on this boat for a couple of legs. Talk to us about the dynamics, Sal.
Yeah, I think they made obviously a really strong call. When I jumped on, Bauer gave the helm to Pete Burling for the import races and the leg starts, and Pete, he just has a really good feel for the boat. He can put the boat in the right mode quite quickly. He's obviously very comfortable on a starting line in a boat-on-boat situation, and moding against another boat, it's just quite natural for him. So Bauer is there calling the tactics, trying to figure out where to go best on the race course. You have KP with the navigation, and then everybody else in the front, making the sail changes. They've already done, their second sail change. It's quite important for that to go really smoothly, and each maneuver also pays off, and it seems the team is really coming together.
Yep. Biggest character on board?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Who's always telling the jokes?
Yeah, Kyle Langford has always got his mouth moving, which is entertaining. But yeah, it's a good group of guys. yeah, it's maybe between Bauer and Kyle. It's always something's happening.
There we go. Okay, well, with Team Brunel have their J1 up, some of the other teams have their masthead code 0. We're going to go up to the helicopter to the president of North Sails to give us his perspective on the different tactical options with these sails, why they use them, a little bit behind North Sails' involvement in the race. Kenny.
Well, thank you for that, Andy. I guess I owe you that beer that I promised you. Listen, I love that move by Brunel. They came up into a little bit more pressure, but for the most part, they're just trying to do this maneuver quicker, I think. We'll see their big code 0 come out here shortly. Listen, it's just common sense. Light air, put up the big gear. Heavy air, put up smaller gear. And they had a little puff there for a bit. They put up their smaller sail, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see the big one come up out again very shortly. The other advantage to the smaller sails allows you to point a little closer to the wind. I think they were really trying to get themselves up and around that spectator crowd, but 2 quick tacks. They're probably going to net a couple boat links because they're doing it with a small jib, and then expect to see that big one come out very soon now that they're back kind of on a long starboard tack again, and obviously could use the sail area.
Yep, certainly. Well, there we go. As Brunel lead, they'll look forward to getting their big one out, and they are leading the J1 up. Coming back up through the start-finishing line. There's the gunboat 60 right there. That is the committee boat, and it's been very tricky. Breeze, tide, tactics. But we've certainly seen some lead changes, and Mapfre still just keep charging away at it, nudging away. And Kenny, crucial times.
Crucial times, and you know, we really, like Vicey said earlier, we really thought this was going to be a bit of a reach around, but Mapfre, they just figure out. It was the same way when they came into this channel, obviously with their massive comeback at the end of this past leg for Mitajaí. They just positioned the boat beautifully on the race course. And by the way, as Pablo Arate, who's driving Mapfre, would tell you, you need a little luck too at the same time. And the luck was that Vestas didn't have a great rounding at that last gate, opened the door a little bit, and guess what? Mapfre always jumps in when they have the opportunity.
Yeah, and Kenny, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about the sails. You have a team of people that help design those sails, and they've got to last all the way around the world. 2 sets they get, and that gives tactical options for which sails you use when. Right. Well, first of all, it's an honor to be part of the Volvo Ocean Race, and especially as the exclusive sailmaker to it. All these teams have our sails on board, and we learn so much from the obvious abuse that these teams are putting on the sails. The drone shots in the Southern Ocean, I think, are something that none of us have ever seen before. Even when you're on board the boat, you don't realize how scary it is until you see some of those drone shots. So the abuse to the sails is like no other race in the world, really. And it's something that we can learn from. So if these sails can take the abuse that these teams are giving them, then I think for us average sailors, us average folks out here, we're looking pretty good. We're looking pretty solid. I think there's 9 sails on board the boat. These masthead code 0s are so versatile. They go upwind in light air like we're seeing right now, and they go downwind in most breezes as well. So, you know, it's fascinating. Our designers learn so much especially from the feedback of all these sailors as well. They're really open with us. They tell us what they like, what they don't like. We try to change things around, and next time around, we hopefully will have even a better inventory again. And we've got an amazing shot, Kenny, right now of the sails from the helicopter that you're sitting in. And just talk to us. I've got 2 questions for you. 1, what are the sails made of? And 2, just tell us about the shape and what is behind the shape of the sails.
Well, the process is a patented process called 3DI, and it's a patented process for North Sails. These sails are actually made out of mostly aramid, and aramid is what we would refer to as Kevlar in the past. And the reason why they're not carbon fiber is so the satellite communication can see through them. The satellites can't see through carbon fiber, so depending on where you are in the world. The communication, obviously safety factor and getting weather downloads and things like that would be hindered. So the choice was made a long time ago to go with aramid, and we have to build the sails appropriately, obviously, structurally, and from a sail shape standpoint. Listen, these are just airplane wings stuck up on a big old 30-meter mast, and you know, these teams become so good at trim, tiny little bits of trim, because in this one design atmosphere, it's the smallest little bit of trim differences that can actually make knots of boat speed difference. So you know by now they've all gotten very good at it. They've also come much closer in how they trim the boats. But at the same time, it's impressive to see these sails. I know how much abuse all these sails have had right now, and I'll tell you what, I'd go out to a Wednesday night race right now, right off of Newport Harbor, and sail with any of these sails anytime.
Yeah, we're just watching what's called a peel from the J1 to the masthead code 0, Sally.
Yep, and that's actually quite a nice peel. See, they only need 2 hands on the bow there to kind of collect the J1, because the flow is so strong over the masthead 0 that it sort of just falls on onto the deck. So pretty much somebody just needs to collect the clew, which is the aft corner of the sail, get it inside the lifelines, and then, you know, get it all down nice and tidy just for less windage. But it's an easy peel. You don't have a big furl to do.
And who's that on the bow there?
Looks like Nina Curtis, possibly. And Carlo. Yeah.
Carlo Huisman and Nina Curtis. There we go. And you know Nina?
I know Nina, yeah. She's an accomplished match racer herself. Medal in the 2012 games. And yeah, great. I think she's got an amazing attitude. Not a ton of offshore experience, but she sure got her jump in it when she joined Brunel for the Southern Ocean race.
There she is. She has certainly slid well into the team. Seems to be getting on extremely well. And there she was just giving some feedback, it looked like, to Carl Lowenford in a very frank way. Probably telling him to stop telling stories. Yeah. Here we go. Gate number 3, Windward Mark. Team Brunel, who had their J1 up, then they peeled to the masthead code 0. You can see just to the left Castle Hill, where we've got all the crowds. We've got all the spectator boats on the western side. Now this will be interesting. Talk us through this maneuver, Sally.
This is probably going to be a jibe around, so they need to furl this masthead 0, and then as the boat turns around the mark, they just deploy it and go. So it's quite a nice, easy maneuver. Looks like maybe they overshot it a little bit, so they're having to, yeah, maybe they could have furled a little bit later and needing to turn around the mark there and get the jibe in before they deploy. A little bit of a loss in boat lengths, but better than hitting the mark or deploying on the wrong side.
Bauer now on the wheel. Entirely smooth.
Not entirely smooth, so that's what happened. They made maybe a handover. Pete sometimes likes to jump on the handles to put some muscles in. And maybe that's what happened, is that they made that handover maybe a little bit too close to the mark and furled a little too soon.
So right behind them, it is Mapfre now in 2nd and Vestas 11th Hour Racing in 3rd. We'll go down on the water for his perspective, Nick Bice.
Yeah, whilst Brunel stepped out a little bit there, it's fantastic to see Mapfre and doing what they do best, just coming through this fleet to have a very handy 2nd position, which looks as though they'll definitely hold on to for the second half of this race.
Mapfre sailing very nicely. Is that Pablo Arate helming again? He helms all the import races, and he was actually here last summer because he was sailing on the J-class Lionheart with Bauer. Sailing with Bauer.
Probably, yeah. It looks like they've turned the other gate here, so this could be quite interesting.
Yeah. Oh, this may be a small opportunity here for Vestas 11th Hour Racing. It's been a little different here. Bicey, what do you think about this?
Oh, the gate's much set up a lot better this time round, so I don't think there's any advantage in neither the left nor the right. So I believe the difference will stay the same.
Okay. Got pictures of Vestas 11th Hour Racing, Charlie Enright. This is his 2nd Volvo Ocean race. He did his last time with Team Team Alva Medica, and they ended up 5th. Interestingly, only 1 point separated 3rd and 4th, and there was a tiebreaker for 4th and 5th. So the results of the import race were at least 2, if not at least 1, if not a 2-position lead. I think they would have got on the podium if they'd have had a slightly better import race series last time. So that just shows you how crucial it is. So Mapfre did a nice job there, no problem. Mark Towell also is on board Team Alva Medica, and they're joined this time by their navigator Simon Fisher, who has been a real standout fella on board that boat. He won with Abu Dhabi Ocean Racing, 39 years old. I used to live with him down in New Zealand for the 2003 America's Cup. A great guy and a real benefit to Vestas 11th Hour Racing, his leadership skills, fantastic. Team Sun Hun Kai Scallywag, David Witt, certainly had their dramas. Amazing team who are sailing in memory of their crewmate John Fisher, tragically lost in the Southern Ocean, and they are doing a great job of it. David Witt's been doing all sorts of interviews, and a stand-up guy. Brilliant, brilliant for them. In 4th place now in this Gurney's Resorts import race. Here on a, well, it looks like a bit of mizzle today. Mist and drizzle. They call it a soft day in Ireland. Dongfang race team. They come back a bit.
Yeah, they. I think they looked more like Mapfre on that beat, where they were just quite solid, holding their lane. And, you know, we saw Aksa tack out of the bottom gates, and then we saw Turn the Tide, the next team to have to tack. And Dongfang, I think, just did maybe one less maneuver to pass both those teams.
Well, so Nick Bice down on the water. You've had a lot to do with the sail loft, and as part of the boatyard fixing the boats. Kenny Reed waxing lyrical about North Sails. You have to deal with it on a practical level. Tell us.
Yeah, I mean, there's no better partner than North Sails, who've been a part of this race for a very long time and will continue to be a part of this race for a long time to come. But they've just proven with their product of what you can actually do, and the durability that they've built into the product is unbelievable. And working with their designers and getting, as Kenny said, some pretty frank reviews from the sailors is only making the product much better. And literally these sails are bulletproof. So to add on to what Kenny said, they're built of a product, an aramid product called Tuaron, which is actually built to make bulletproof vests. So there you go, they are bulletproof.
There you go. All right, Team Akzo Nobel coming up towards the windward mark on these import races. They do get the opportunity of taking out some of the very special guests on board Team Akzo Nobel. We've got Ludwig Arnoldson, Duffy Newman, and Ryan McKerney, president of Visa. Here we go, Akzo Nobel tacking a little slowly around. They've got a rope around that left-hand side. Just they've got a little rope in the water there. Someone will pull that up just on the side. They've pulled it in, no problem there. Team Akzo Nobel tacking around the top. Is it still around? Is it around the rudder?
I think it was just a lazy sheet of the masthead.
Okay, lazy sheet. Sally. Calm down and carry on. Team Akzo Nobel in there. Excellent paint job. They painted all of the boats here. Paint company, and they've done a great job of it. Turn the Tide on Plastic now, Dee Kafari and her team. And Dee Kafari has got a remarkable history in round the world sailing. She's actually sailed around the world in 6 different configurations. She did the, I think, BT Global Challenge with a full crew. She then did the round the world in one of their BT boats on her own the wrong way. She then did the Barcelona World Race, then the Vendée Globe, then she did SCA as a crew member, and now she did she's doing Turn the Tide on Plastic as a skipper. So a real inspiration for anybody who wants to sail around the world, but particularly for female sailors who are here on every one of the boats, and it's great to see them, and Dee, a real leader. She's done a great job of gelling this team together. She's the glue, always smiling, but but ever competitive.
Yeah, and she's really taken it to a new level with bringing a lot of new faces to the sport, well, to the ocean, basically, and giving these guys a lot of confidence. And I think early in the race, she referred to them as young, as, inexperienced, and now you listen to some of the interviews, and she feels super confident with them. They know a lot. I think they're pushing the boat even further than she thought, and as a group, they're really coming together, and that's because they have quite a strong leader.
Yeah, she's the only female to sail around the world solo non-stop 3 times, and the only female to sail around the world in both directions. Here we go.
Bauer looks pretty chilled out there, like they have maybe a strong lead.
Yeah, he does look reasonably happy, just leaning there. Body language is not entirely relaxed. He's still got his arms crossed, but all business with Bauer. And as I said, the press conference yesterday, all of the teams. Here we go, Pete Burling back on the wheel with his trademark start. There's Hammersmith Farm just in the background. And there's Clingstone, the house on the rock. Very hard to get to, but when you get there, you get a spectacular view. Look at the tide, all mixed up there, just around Clingstone. It's a very strong tidal area right there. Great spectator fleet and Brunel in the background. They're with the tide now, so give them a knot and a half or so right now of extra current. Bauer, his 8th Volvo Ocean race, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. He came 2nd in the last edition, and there's just something about this race. If you don't win it, you keep wanting to come back, and we'll go up to the helicopter with Kenny Reed, a 3rd and a 2nd place in the Volvo Ocean race. You finally had to call it quits, Kenny.
Well, maybe I either smartened up or it's hard work, I can tell you. I think mentally, even more so than physically for these teams, to go around the world, to take a lap, and especially in these one designs where it's so competitive and so tight, it just takes it out of you in a big way. And time to go do a little bit of business and try to maybe sit in an armchair every once in a while and watch these guys go around the world, and I can second guess them now instead of them second guessing me. Because as we're coming downwind, the Vestas is making a nice little comeback against Mapfre. Mapfre was sailing very differently than all the other boats, much more eased on their code 0. I also noticed they're standing the boat up much straighter, so they're probably using a bit more keel. I don't know if there's something wrong with the boat or not, but they were sailing very eased with their head slope for quite a while, and Vestas has really chewed right into them and maybe make this a race. Remember, the outgoing current at this next gate, as we saw last time around, really makes this maneuver tricky. So good job by Charlie Enright and his team by closing in and not quitting on this reach around and trying to give Mapfre a little run for their money.
Yeah, there's only 4 boat lengths in it now, Kenny. We're very lucky to have you here, and the Volvo Ocean Race loss is our gain, and we get to get your wonderful insight into what it's like. And Bauer Becking just has never been able to get the bone out of his mouth. He keeps on going and going, and it's great to have him, veteran, now in the race. And we've got pictures here of Vestas 11th Hour Racing and Mapfre very close, and it does look like maybe it's not quite right at the top, is it, of the unfurl? We've got brilliant pictures. Look at that. We've got the helicopter giving it all to us. It just looks like they're in slightly less breeze, or it's not quite trimmed properly. What are your thoughts, Kenny? Because actually Vestas 11th Hour Racing still coming into Mapfre. We've got a race.
Yeah, no doubt they sailed into a little lighter breeze, but they have been sailing much more ease, much more relaxed trim on that front code 0 than Vestas the whole time up. And I'm not so sure it's working very well. They're about to sail into a bit of a puff, but yeah, we got a little boat race on our hands here all of a sudden, which is a nice feature when you got to talk about it, eh, Andy?
Yeah, it's unfurled. Okay, look at that. That's the Vestas 11th Hour Racing. That's the top of the rig. And Kenny was just talking about a VMG angle, and maybe we'll get Sally. Just explain to us what VMG is.
VMG, so that stands for Velocity Made Good, and we're talking about destination is going down to the leeward gates there, and so the fastest angle you can get to that gate without going too slow. So Mapfre sailing lower and slower, Vestas sailing maybe a more solid angle, but you have to go down to the mark. So Velocity Made Good, it's tricky. You can't sail straight to the marks.
Yeah, look at this. We got a pass on here. Kenny, talk to us about this.
Yeah, even a slight overlap right now on Vestas, so Mapfre has to keep clear. Vestas can't necessarily luff coming from clear behind, but all of a sudden we're going to have a jibe coming up shortly, and if Vestas can beat them to the jibe, they'll have inside overlap toward this gate. So very interesting. We got only about 2 meters between the boats right now. What a cool vantage point. I highly recommend everybody come up and watch a race from a helicopter sometime. This is very interesting.
Yeah, you probably have to sell your Bitcoin to be able to get up there on a nice day like this, and it's very close. Kenny said there is about to be a jibe between those two boats. It's crucial, and I think there may well be an umpire situation there because Charlie Enright will be pushing Mapfre. He'll want to get every little moment on this. Here we go for the jibe. Vestas 11th Hour Racing go for the jibe first, and I think, Kenny, Mapfre really weren't able to jibe there. They were too close, and so Vestas beat them to the punch.
Yeah, but I'm a little confused because they're not even close to ley line at this stage. I'm not sure why Vestas jibed so early right there. Either they see something I don't, or Mapfre is going to jibe well to leeward of them, even a little early on Mapfre. Very interesting maneuvers by both of these guys. I think if Mapfre makes this gate, they're going to have only had to do one maneuver, whereas Vestas is going to have to do 2.
Oh,
here we go. Here comes the moment of truth. But Vestas, by jibing early and doing 2 maneuvers, quite frankly, I'm very puzzled.
Yeah. And it wasn't the greatest second jibe there for them. They didn't quite unfurl properly. I thought we might have been looking forward to a bit of biffo around the bottom mark, but as you say, Vestas, I think they just got light in their dirty air and they were sort of forced to jibe away, but I think I would have been holding on for another few boat lengths in the outbound tide as much as they could, because they only needed to stay for, what, another minute maybe less, Kenny?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they were in a reasonably solid position. They had been staying in that kind of leeward position with true wind behind Mapfre for a fair chunk of time. So, yeah, why do 2 when you can only do 1 and possibly jump your friends on Mapfre to get into that gate? And look at this. These maneuvers with such a short-handed crew are just so hard. You set yourself up with these 2 quick jibes for a semi-disaster, and that's what we got on 11th Hour Racing and Vestas right now.
Yeah, trying to do too much right there, and it hasn't helped them out at all, and they've not got their code 0 in, and if in doubt, do less sometimes in these positions, particularly with the tide underneath them. Yeah, they go around in third, but it's okay. They're still in a podium spot. That'll keep the hometown fans happy, give everyone something to cheer about on the dot when we do the prize giving. Vestas Wind have been giving us some great data and have been helping the team out for a lot of their routing. Anderson Reggio, another local boy from Newport, he's their onshore navigator, and he helps with all the routing around the world, the best possible line you can take. And I guess my best explanation, I'm going to give it a go, of VMG is when you punch a destination into your sat-nav, Castle Hill right there with their tent out, and plenty of people enjoying the action. What a great vantage point. The best example I can give is when you punch a destination into your sat-nav, sometimes it gives you 2 or 3 different options. And so it's not always a straight line to get where you're going to. And sometimes it says destination similar time, and that means you can jibe one way and the other. You can take a different route and it still gets to you at the same time, but it's not a direct route to going where you're going. It'll say 11 miles to go, and actually as the crow flies it's only 10. The VMG is the speed of which you've got to get to the final destination, so it's usually lower than the speed in a straight line. Oh, I made that complicated.
almost got it. Right. I almost understood you.
All right, well, I'll sharpen my pencil and go back to school for a better summary of that. Sun Hun Kai Scallywag have got their code 0 up. Let's go down to the water. Nick Bice.
Yeah, it's such a pity there for the local heroes to actually not get in front of Mapfre, but it looks as though they'll be on the podium, which will give the town something to sincerely cheer about. But I'm just so amazed at all the people that are out here watching this, like Ken said before. And as my rib driver actually said, it's called New England for a reason, not New Tahiti.
Yeah, very good, yes. Quite rainy and miserable, just like a nice English summer. Fortunately, nice weather this weekend in England. We're going to hope that we get some sunshine in Cardiff, Wales for our next import race and stopover. That's leg 9. Looking forward to it tomorrow. Juan Cifre from Puerto Rico. Hi to you. Nice to see you tuning in. And yes, Turn the Tide on Plastic struggled here in this light breeze. But we're on board right now. Vestas wind data on the left-hand side there. Carl Langford trimming the main. He's just to the right in the black jacket next to Pete Burling. Carl Langford, the main trimmer on Racing, the last America's Cup, the last 2 America's Cups, I think.
Yep, that's true. He's quite an accomplished ring trimmer.
Won the previous America's Cup before he was beaten by that guy right next to him there, Pete Burling from Emirates Team New Zealand. Now they're teammates. Say another big success for Team Brunel. They are doing great work. They have really got the bit between their teeth, and in the last few legs, they were second in this leg. Pretty unlucky. They almost did 2 in a row, and they won the previous leg. So they've got 20 points for the last 2 legs, more by a considerable margin. The next best was Dong Fong on 16. So Team Brunel got a 4-point jump on Dongfeng Race Team, and they got a 7-point jump on Mapfre at the top of the leaderboard. And while we're still looking at the import race, this is the final leg. If Brunel win leg 9 to Cardiff, and if Dongfeng come 4th and Mapfre come 5th, although those 3 boats will be within 1 point of each other in the overall leaderboard, this race by no means over. And Team Brunel in the last edition of the race had the best final half of any of the teams. They're still within touch, still got a boat race, and that's why Brunel keep trying and pushing and pushing. And when you've got someone like Pete Burling on board the boat, Ken Reid, you know that he's going to keep going. He's a serious player. I'll just come back to you about Pete Burling in a second, Kenny, as we watch Vestas 11th Hour Racing defending against Sun Hun Kai Scallywag, and this might be tricky because we've got a J1, the jib, and underpowered on Vestas 11th Hour Racing, and we've got the masthead code 0 on Sun Hun Kai Scallywag, so still chance for changes on the podium. Kenny, talk to us about Pete Burling, having someone like that on board, and Bauer Becking's talked about it. He's part of their speed team. What does that mean?
Well, speed team is right. I mean, you can make a case there's no faster sailor in the world right now. You know, what isn't on the speed team right now is Vestas just turned that leeward mark into a grind fest. They bad couple jibes, a bad rounding, and they got themselves right back in that position they did on the first time around. They got themselves right down into Mapfre's dirty air and allowed Scallywag and on the inside of them, Dongfeng just chomping up from behind. So unfortunately, Vestas didn't quite learn from that first time around. They may come out of it okay, but yeah, that leeward mark rounding really has caused Vestas a bit of an issue all day long today in what should be a pretty easy reach around.
Yeah, it looks like it's all pretty hard trim on there. They're searching for power all the time with that J1. And quite a big difference in size between the J1 and the masthead code 0, Kenny.
A massive difference, and now here's Dongfeng doing what Mapfre did, just waiting, being patient, let other people make mistakes. They might have Scallywag in a tough spot because they're going to have to tack off of this spectator crowd possibly here soon. Again, that leeward mark rounding and setting yourself up for either clean air or dirty air, disturbed air, it has been really one of the crucial factors in this race. Vestas is now out with their code 0, and I think they're going to stay bow forward on Dongfang. But Scalawag has all of a sudden set themselves up to be in a tough spot. They'll be tacking over onto Port Tack and have to give way to both Dongfang and Vestas 11th Hour Racing.
Okay, we're going to come back to Kenny for that perspective. There's a big battle for third place right there between Vestas, Sunghunkai Scalawag and Dongfang Race Team. Great pictures right there. We're just to leeward of Dongfang, just to windward of them. Vestas 11th Hour Racing, look, they've decided to get rid of the J1 and peel out their masthead code 0 for a bit more power. Down on the water, Nick Bice, you saw that manoeuvre. Talk to us about it.
Yeah, but just prior to that, I'll just mention Brunel look as though that they'll be able to get through this finish line in one piece. And just to add on to what you mentioned about Pete Burling and the team and how well Brunel have gone in the past in the second half of the race, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, the calibre on that boat is phenomenal. The calibre in the race is great, but the calibre on board Brunel is fantastic. And when they set off tomorrow, which could be quite a windy North Atlantic leg, those that calibre is going to shine through again. So I'm sure we're going to see the yellow boat at the front of the fleet.
Yeah, there's Team Brunel behind the famous 12 metres that ply their trade around Newport. There are quite a few of them, and it's really lovely to see them taking people out. You've got the Block Island Ferry and the Nantucket Ferry right there, taking out spectators today. No one's going off to Block Island or Nantucket on a miserly day like this. Team Brunel, Bauer Becking, his 8th Volvo Ocean race, way back when in 85, 86, he came second with Phillips Innovator. Then he was with Winston and Merritt Cup for all those super Uber sailing fans. Amma Sports 1, Movistar, Telefonica Blue. He was third within 08, 09, and second in the last edition with Team Brunel in the 2014-15 race. Abby Ayler, the boat captain. She was with Team SCA, but also in the 2001-2002 race, she was with Amma Sports 2. Sally, you're probably looking up to that boat. That was a few years ago now.
Just a few, yeah.
You probably weren't even born.
I was born watching them go around and being quite jealous at the opportunity that they had.
Inspired you?
For sure, yeah. Abby is an inspiration to most of us.
Yeah, this is her third Volvo. She was actually boat captain on our America's Cup team in 2003 for GBR Challenge. Great job she did too. Here we go, Pete Burling and Carl Langford now just, let's see if we turn up the volume. We want to hear what they're saying to each other. One together. Very happy about that, and this really is a good example of how Team Brunel have got their act together and are sailing very nicely indeed. Bauer there looking over all his proteges and his extremely skilled crew that he's put together. Here they come towards the Gurney's resort finish line. Gurneys have places here in Newport and in Provincetown. There we go. Pete Burling's finally having a little bit of a relaxed moment as the boats come towards the finishing line just above them. Fort Adams, the old US Army post, established in 1799. Brilliant racing from Team Brunel from start to finish. They take the Gurney's Newport in-port race. Fantastic sailing from the Dutch team. Celebrating, you can see how happy they are. Very good for them, well done. Navigator Andrew Cape just Peter Burling congratulating everyone. Real team player. There's Abby right there on the left-hand side. Chloe Balkan and Carlo Huisman. And there's been a ferry going from Fort Adams, from Newport to the island of Jamestown since 1675, back and forth. I did say there was some nautical history here in Newport, and it is absolutely true. Pirates, privateers, the site of a big clean out of the pirates in the 1700s. Some of the pirates donated to the church and bought pubs. Other of the pirates didn't have such a nice fate. They got sent to the gallows, and actually 21 of them buried on the north end of Goat Island between the high water and the low water mark. So they didn't get a seaman's burial or a land burial. Their souls would never rest. But here we go, Mapfre in second. They've got their masthead code 0 up, and I tell you, that was a great result from them. Again, specialists in coming from behind. That's the Team Brunel fans. All those Dutchies very happy. Passionate fans. The most winning nation in Volvo Ocean Race history. The Dutch have won it 4 times. Connie van Rietschouten on Flyer and Flyer 2. Despite having a heart attack midway through a Southern Ocean leg, they took some aspirin, went down below, and they still won the race. And Mapfre have had a royal send-off this weekend. They've had some of their Spanish royalty up here in Newport. The 500th anniversary of the first circumnavigation of the globe. They've been celebrating that. Here we go. The red boat Mapfre coming in towards the finishing line for the Gurney's Newport import race. 2 laps around. Great sailing from Mapfre for a 2nd place finish. There we go, across the line. Well done to Pablo Arate, helmsman, and Xavi Fernandez, skipper, and all the sailors on board Mapfre. They continue in their podium ways. Very good for them. Vestas 11th Hour Racing look like they've just held off that push from Sung Hun Kai Scallywag and from Dongfeng. Sung Hun Kai Scallywag just taking a little detour around some of the spectator boats. XL right there, just to windward, and there's to the left, that's the Rum Runner. Marshall's working to clear their path through the big spectator fleet. That Rum Runner and the Pam, those 2 lovely wooden boats there, they can do 40 knots, those boats. They had to go fast, apparently. Something to do with the name Rum Runner. Vestas 11th Hour Racing coming in towards for a podium spot. This will keep everybody happy. Local fans abound. Vestas 11th Hour Racing take 3rd. Nice sailing. Good defending, and Kenny Reed's critical eye, and he's sharpened his pencil. He'll be giving them a few notes later. Charlie Enright said, "We'll take it." Tricky day. As Sun Hun Kai Scallywag, oh my word. Oh, keep your eyes open here, folks. Yep, there we go. Well done on the Pam. Stick it in reverse. That's the Mapfre corporate boat. Mapfre finished, so you don't need to give them any more grief right here. Okay, Kenny, you've got the perspective from the helicopter. Dongfeng and Sung Hun Kai Scallywag is going to be close.
My goodness. They don't call him scallywags for nothing. I mean, he just bobbed and weaved himself right through the spectator craft. It's a gorgeous little 37-foot dark blue boat right to the left of the pin that I was very afraid that Scallywag might go try to take a piece out of, but fortunately they missed our ride. I guess he did the right thing. I mean, they were behind Dongfeng at one stage and took a few risks. There's no doubt about that. But sure enough, they're going to beat Dongfeng by about 5 or 6 lengths. And hey, there's nothing. It was very fun to watch, I'll tell you that.
Well done, David Witt and his Sun Hun Kai Scallywag. You see how strong the tide is. As soon as they roll up and that masthead code 0 and tack, they're basically just plugging the tide. Here come Dongfeng Race Team, who've sailed nicely to take a couple of spots in because they were right at the back. And who have we got behind them? We've got Turn the Tide on Plastic and Axo Nobel. Dongfeng Race Team managed to squeeze ahead of... Dongfeng Race Team finish in 5th place for the Gurney's Resorts Import Race, Newport. Next up, Team Axo Nobel. They're doing 9 knots into the tide, about a knot of current, just a little less. It's just getting slightly less low tide around 5:30 local time. Now 3 o'clock. Team Akzo Nobel, and remember these guys have come third in the last 2 legs. So, they've had third, second in their last 4 ocean legs, and here they come around in 6th. They won't be too happy about that, but it's all a double points leg here tomorrow. Okay, let's go down on the water, and I think we've got sailing legend and helmsman Pete Burling. Hey Pete, that trickier than we were thinking at the beginning, but it was all about the start really for a match racer like you. Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, I think we all thought that the start was going to be pretty critical. You know, it's pretty much just a reach down and a slightly deeper reach back. So we did everyone did a good job getting us off the pin in good shape, and then keeping it clean just for the rest of the race, and that made our life pretty easy. You know, we're a bit nervous having Mapfre right behind us after what happened in the leg. It would have been a little nicer to win the leg instead of the import, but it's nice to take a win nonetheless.
Yeah, great. The team seems to really be coming together. What does this mean for you?
Yeah, well, it's just great to have a bit of momentum. You know, we've put together a few really good results in a row in the legs, and yeah, we're hoping to come home really strong. You know, we've got a great bunch of sailors on board, and we're really enjoying our yachting. So it's going to be a pretty cold trip across the Atlantic, but we're looking forward to pushing this boat as hard as we can.
Great, Pete. Well, we've also got a Volvo Ocean Race and America's Cup veteran up in the helicopter. Kenny Reed, you've got a question for Pete Burling. Go for it.
Hey, Pete, congratulations. First of all, nice start. And like you said, the start was going to be everything. Little different weather expected tomorrow. Can you give us a little heads up as to what you guys are expecting? Because it sounds like it might be a bit of breeze on.
Yeah, well, I think it's supposed to be a little bit windier. Probably quite similar visibility. It's supposed to be a fair bit of fog around, but I haven't actually looked at the weather on the exit too much. We've more been worrying about what to do on the first night. So it's going to be a pretty tricky exit out of here with a few traffic exclusion zones and some decisions to be made as to how you get around them. And I think we'll be monitoring the weather right till when we leave as to how to deal with that properly. But it's pretty easy not easy in here, but it's quite nice to be able to actually see the breeze you're going in. It's a bit more like a normal import race, so you can just get on with it.
Well, while we've got you all patched in, Kenny Reed, have you got any advice for Pete Burling? You've done the transatlantic. I think you probably hold the transatlantic record, don't you, Kenny? Just talk to Pete about, give him a little tip.
Well, first of all, hold on tight and bring your warm and fuzzies, because it gets cold up around that Labrador current, I can tell you that. Listen, Pete has obviously helped turn this Brunel program around. I don't think he needs any advice from me right now. Somebody with the windlass that Peter has right now, I don't think he needs any advice from me, from some old man up in a helicopter. Okay,
great. Thanks very much, Kenny Reed. Congratulations, Pete Burling. Great to get your words.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, across the line in 7th, it's Dee Kafari and her Turn the Tide on Plastic team. Don't let this result give you any concern. Dee is an absolutely fierce competitor. She'll be furious about this. I know that Tucker will be doing some of the questions when they get in port, when they get dockside in just a few moments, and I'm sure you can watch some of that live on Facebook, and Dee will give us it. Okay. Let's go for the Gurney's Resorts Import Race results. As we saw, Team Brunel, skippered by Bauer Becking, take the win. Mapfre, again, grinding their way back from a pretty bad spot. But Xavi Fernandez in 2nd. 3rd, Vestas 11th Hour Racing gave the home fans something to cheer about. They're going to get on the podium. In 4th, it's Team Sung Hun Kai Scallywag. They avoided all the spectator boats. Dongfeng Race Team managed to scrape out a couple of places after starting in last spot, finishing in 5th. In 6th, it's Team Akzo Nobel, and in 7th, Dee Kafari skippering Turn the Tide on Plastic. Let's go for the overall import series. Mapfre lead on 50 points and extend their lead on Dongfeng Race Team on 42. Team Brunel just nudge ahead now of Team Akzo Nobel, reflecting the overall scores, 36 and 35. In 5th, it's Vestas 11th Hour Racing. with 23, Team Sung Hunkai Scallywag with 19 in 6th place, and in 7th place it's Dekafari on Turn the Tide on Plastic with 16 points. Okay, let's have a look at the in-course race statistics here. Well, look at the distance sailed there, Sally.
Yeah, distance sail, Turn the Tide, you can see that they just had to do a lot more maneuvers to stay out of the bad air, but then you have Team Brunel and Mapfre obviously, coming in on the least amount of meters.
Yeah, and the average speed actually, Vestas 11th Hour Racing looking pretty quick. That's the top right one, Team Brunel also, and that's why those three on the top. And certainly tacks and jibes less is the key in races like this, because in light air anything under 10 knots just takes so long to tack and jibe. And the VMG, the velocity made good, that is the the speed versus distance sailed, gives the tail of the turf really, 1st through 7th. Okay, well, one of the crucial things about Newport is ocean health. Crowds have braved the weather to come and see the boats. We've had the Ocean Summit here, and it's been a collaboration between Volvo Ocean Race and 11th Hour Racing, and Rhode Island was the first US state to commit to the UN Clean Seas campaign to fight ocean plastic pollution. Can't tell you how great this whole endeavour has been. Volvo cars have pledged to eliminate all plastic from their offices, events and canteens by the end of 2019, and this race has been unique in how it collects research data, uses the information to improve ocean health and really drive the story, change behaviour. This behaviour starts at home. Every single person who enjoys the water can pledge to make a little difference, and I'm sure, Sally, collectively we can all make a big difference and big changes.
It was about time that Rhode Island signed the Clean Seas Pledge. It makes sense. There's tons of coastline, per capita, for such a small state. Narragansett Bay is such a big part of what we do, so it only makes sense.
What you're seeing behind me is Newport Harbor, which is on Narragansett Bay. There were parts of Narragansett Bay not too long ago that were not fishable, were not swimmable, but the movement to clean up the bay has been phenomenal. And it's now as clean as it's been since before the Industrial Revolution. So Rhode Island has a long, long tradition of taking care of our bay and taking care of our waters. And I think the pledge is another step forward in that long Rhode Island tradition. And having us be a forum where the Ocean Summit can take place and bring world attention to the problem of ocean plastics is just another way we can contribute to solving this problem. It's very exciting.
There's a real momentum building, and it's so great to be part of it and to see the evolution of this idea from 2015. The first Ocean Summit that was held here in Newport, the message was, uh-oh, there's plastics. Now the message is, what are we doing about it, and how are we bringing everyone together in these forums to think about joint actions, signing the Clean Seas Pledge, committing to personal responsibility.
Well, the really big news is the hostile, remote Southern Ocean that we think is unpopulated, nobody goes there. Point Nemo, the furthest point from any people on land, has actually shown proof of microplastics. So the data we collected has proved that microplastics are there. We know it's not from people and volume of traffic, so we know it's coming on ocean currents from elsewhere. But now the joined up thinking is now with NOAA, with the drifter buoys we deploy, with the microplastic data we're getting, there's a lot of communication now joining up and understanding this flow of macroplastics that are breaking down to microplastics.
I spend a lot of time on the ocean professionally, but I also spend a lot of time personally on the ocean. And you see it everywhere, whether it's on the beaches or in the middle of the oceans, whether it's fishing gear or sofas or, it's all sorts, it's everywhere. I think spreading the word is the key part of it, and this race has been fantastic at doing that. I mean, I think one of the amazing achievements from this race and the previous one is showcasing what can be done, showcasing the problem and explaining there are solutions.
The news that microplastics was found at Point Nemo, which was the remotest, furthest part of the ocean away from land. I think what that shows is that there's a real need for change in human behaviour, and our behaviour actually impacts the most remote parts of the ocean. So I think the time for inaction is over. That message is quite clear. Volvo Cars, as part of our commitment to the Clean Seas campaign and helping turn the tide on plastic, we're announcing that by the end of 2019 we will remove all single-use plastic items from our restaurants, canteens, offices and global events.
Well done to Volvo, to Newport, Wendy Schmidt and 11th Hour Racing for really pioneering this stuff over the last 5 years. And we heard from Dee Kafari talking about those drifter buoys that they're putting into the Southern Ocean. Let's take a closer look.
So this is our alien, our drifter buoy. He weighs 20 kilos and we're about to deploy him into the Southern Ocean. We're 3,000 miles from Cape Horn, about 1,200 miles from New Zealand, so pretty much in the middle of the Southern Pacific Ocean, about 55 south. It's water activated, which is why it's wrapped in plastic, so a necessary evil. So we're going to take this plastic off, I'm going to pass him out, and then we're ceremoniously going to chuck him into the ocean, where he's basically going to become a satellite for the ocean. And he's going to measure sea temperature, ocean swell heights and currents. So he's got a really long drogue so he doesn't get affected by the wind, he'll only move with the ocean currents. He's going to work for about 400 days and he sends real live data back to the scientists from NOAA based in Miami, Florida. And they will get this data and they will be able to predict better, more accurate forecasts. So when the storms are brewing, when the hurricanes are coming, this information will help because the body of water is actually instrumental in all these creations of any storm procedures. So that's why they need this data. And there's no one else down here. So this is an ideal opportunity for the Volvo Ocean Race to do our bit for scientific research.
Good job, Freddie.
Through that fire and the beast, that kind of power that eats away you until you get into the spell and release. I see that spark in my passion, the agony and the challenge to find a balance within your hustle that you cannot manage. Life's cold, but soul any quicker when having a vision is what's missing on this mission. Listen, cause life's a play, have to hustle for the riches. It's a game, no one's gonna pay your ways, to pave a way in pictures. Here for the action and no submission or breaks. Shatter limits and glass ceilings, take every chance I'm not kneeling. Rising from an decade. What does it feel to hold? Let's rise up, be ready to fight you now, goals. I see the strength and struggle that's in your eyes. I see the power in us because of fire.
A sprinkling of Newport glamour, a dock full of passionate fans, an American portion of drama, the world's toughest race, stuffed full of ocean heroes in an ever-tightening nautical battle, all guarantees us an explosive event. Join us tomorrow at 1:45 local time for the start of Leg 9.